most intimate experience with death was with the death of my father, who died when I was 6 years old of a heart attack. And I was also the one that found his body. I also remember walking in and seeing him lying in the kitchen on the floor. I remember thinking that he was playing, that he was joking, and I remember trying to sort of move him. I remember the position that he was lying in. I remember thinking he looked like a ballerina because his hands were up above his head. I think I sort of black out when the thought starts to dawn on me that he wasn't just joking, that there was something different there. There was something gone. And there's a space of time after that. I guess it's several hours of time that I don't remember at all. And the next image that I do remember is I'm lying on the couch in the living room facing our front door, and I could see the silhouette of my mother, just this shape standing in the doorway as she gets off of work and comes home. And I remember telling her that I think he was dead, that I thought he was dead. And at that point, everything's a blank. I was very, very close to my father. I think he had always wanted a girl and had gotten one. And so there was a great deal of intimacy and love and affection between us. I don't think I ever really grieved his death. My mother suffered off and on from depression. And so I think that in a way I became sort of conscious of her fragility and the possibility of even losing her. My mother never really showed her emotion to me about it. I don't remember seeing her grieve the finality of that loss and realizing that I can't replace that presence in my life. But for many, many years, I would be, disturbed or frightened by certain images, certain smells, certain qualities of light would remind me of things. And I think the reason that I became an artist, one of the reasons was an effort to sort of put together the pieces of this puzzle. One of them was that, but one of them was also another way to shut off from the world, another way to enter sort of a private space that was mine alone and that I could completely control. So I don't know, I think that, people become artists for healthy reasons and for unhealthy reasons at the same time. And sometimes, re-experiencing those things is not really a way of working through them or getting past them. It's more of a way of sort of staying caught in that space and time and almost preserving it in a weird way.
Just to talk about my relationship with death is considering my first experience with it, which was the loss of my dog. And my dog had been put to sleep by a veterinarian hospital that we had left the dog with when we'd gone on vacation. It created such deep anger in me as a 5-year-old child that I really wanted to kill. My father died when I was 16, and the anger welled up in me at that point too. I was extremely angry young man that I couldn't even really process the death of my father in a full way, and until the death of my best friend, which was 4 years later, in a car accident in which I was driving. This friend was killed in the back seat. Being in San Francisco in the mid-'80s when I arrived was participating sexually in a climate of terror. There was concern, and everywhere was pointing to AIDS epidemic and concern in all the communities, particularly in the gay community. Was it very, very politicized, active, open, aggressive campaign to make it visible and very understandably. And so I think that for those of us in our early adulthood, sex and death were even more interrelated and really braided in together. That fear translated into my own terror of being infected by the virus and of having something in me that was my death. I had a test, I was negative. I was unable to really fully believe that the results were right. So the only way that I could actually deal with my own terror and these results was to very selfishly go into hospice work as a volunteer and spend a couple days a week, which I did for it was about 15, 16 months altogether. And in that time, just spending time with people who were really, really sick and actively dying with AIDS and with cancer. And their stories and sharing their memories and being there, the long walks and the hours spent holding hands and listening to them and getting glasses and shopping for food and smoking marijuana
So I have had many relatives die in the last 5 years and many friends. I think 5 or 6 relatives. They were mostly old age, natural causes. My friends, however, did not die of old age and natural causes. 2 of my friends, and one was a former lover, committed suicide. One friend died on a spur-of-the-moment vacation with a new boyfriend, and they got in a car accident. She had her head whiplashed, her neck. And another friend, in a way, killed himself. He was a co-host at Burning Man, which is a big local festival. And he was driving into Burning Man, but he was fairly inebriated, and he kept talking about death and driving to the playa and the Black Rock. And he drove into a van and he was dead. It's funny, I played a gig solo in a mausoleum recently over in Oakland. A beautiful building, Julian Morgan building. And in the building, each person's ashes are in a brass book, with their name on the binder. And it's a beautiful building with all kind of different levels, lots of levels, and lots of fountains and light coming through the upper, skylights. And every year, my friend Sarah is gathering musicians there, and everyone plays all at once solo in different areas of the mausoleum. And so this year, to honor my grandmother, who is probably the biggest influence in my life, my grandmother Stuart, she died very old as well. She was 90. But I did a kind of my ceremony to hers. I knew I would cry extensively while I was playing, and I just played my alto clarinet, which is, I call it my alto clarinet grandma. And I shrouded myself completely in black and sat in the farthest corner of the mausoleum next to a waterfall and just played for 1 hour. I think the hardest deaths in my past 5 years have been the suicides. because you feel, first of all, you feel so guilty that you didn't help this person. But in both cases of these two men, I didn't know that they were that disparate. No one can know when someone makes it a secret that they are going to commit suicide. And in some ways, I guess I've come to finally realize that it's their choice, you know.
I moved to San Francisco about 11 years ago, and of course this is at the time that was the height of the AIDS epidemic. So there was, being involved in the arts, there is a large kind of collaboration or crossover between the gay community in San Francisco as well as the arts community. So I think this, to me, was a real beginning of my introduction into my experience of my colleagues or people my own age dying. So this was, kind of shocking, and but I think informs a lot of what makes up San Francisco. Its vitality and energy was part of this. But about 5 years ago, about when I was about 25, my mother was diagnosed with a bone marrow cancer, which is a systemic cancer, so it's through your entire body. And I started to take care of her at this time. I didn't think, I really did not know too much about this disease. The greatest education of my life so far, and probably the most challenging, the most damaging, the most thought-provoking thing that has given me the position that I'm in. He thought, because she was degenerating rather fast, that maybe she would not live that long. Of course, I didn't want her to be in pain, so maybe this is just a projection or a wish that she would not have to suffer so much. But this wasn't the case. She lived for 5 years, at which time I was taking care of her. My life kind of came to a standstill, or everything sort of ceased slowly. It was strange because I felt like it was being with someone who's drowning, and they take you down. If you go to save them, they maybe will grab onto you and take you down to their death as well. And this was the process that I found myself involved with at this time, was of watching my life start to fade away as well, where I would be giving so much to this care. And it was kind of an inversion of childhood. But not with the goal of watching a person become an adult or something, but it was like this caretaking in a way of, that the final destination is death. And in this caretaking, I gave up working, took on the job of managing my mother's life in terms of her money, in terms of doing responsibilities for the house, and as for her pain medication as well. Also this, I should say that the rest of my siblings, my brother and sister, came to help out over a period, about a year after I started taking care of my mother. But it's like becoming a child again, and living, you're suddenly living with your family again. Again, it was a lot of unexpected things I felt in this time period, that I was losing touch with my body. I felt like I was going into the world of the dead, that I was starting to see things as a dead person might. And I don't mean this from the point of view of a ghost or of a spirit, but more of something as like your view of life when you think that you're dying, or when you know that you're dying. And this is that certain things are not important anymore, and that you have a concentration on other things. However, I was not the one dying, so this is a very artificial situation for myself. I found myself, I would catch myself holding my breath. I would find that I was losing touch with my own memory, that I couldn't remember things. I would space out. I would find myself very unaware